What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. It is Wednesday. Today I actually want to talk about a certain topic I had in mind, and that is my RV experience and how's that going and how that is going. To be honest, guys, it's been, the money I've made in RVs is great, but to begin with, I'm going to break it down between three things, and one being first the pay, second being overall experience, and third being how much I would recommend it, I guess, right? So for my first year in RVs, I think I made around like $1,500. I netted $1,500, and then for the next 3-4 years I worked at Alliance. First one job was at Keystone, and then in Alliance, which I worked for 3 years, that kind of varied because, of course, the thing about RVs is that it fluctuates depending on the market. So we get paid per unit, not salary. So the money is directly correlated with the amount of units you make or which units you make. And in every plant, there's always different units you make, some being more money than others. So at Alliance, it always varied, and those 2 years were kind of rough because I guess the market was going down. I think overall the market is going down for RVs because I feel like it's older people buying them, and people are just younger people are not gonna have a reason to buy these huge RVs. My prediction on this is gonna be that Sprinter vans, kind of stuff like that, is what's taking over. Those Mercedes vans. I feel like that's gonna take over as opposed to these huge ones where it's like, before I feel like you had a whole family to fill them in, but honestly, I don't think people want that really. They want something easier to move around, and so I think the move will be more towards Sprinter vans, like camp life stuff, than huge RVs because, again, like I said, older generations probably had bigger families to accommodate these things for, and so there's demand for that. But I don't feel like I don't feel like there will be a demand for that going forward. But I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong because it is a huge industry in this area, and it pays great when it's great. So I would hope that wouldn't happen for these people because I know Sprinter events wouldn't be that much money. But regardless of that, so yeah, all RV is usually piece rate, so that means it's all tied to the money. So my pay in Alliance varied from 80 to 90K, I think, roughly. But honestly, my second year there, it went down to like 60 because it was just a drop off. And then my third year kind of went back up again, and then my fourth year I got fired, and then I went to Forest River, and at Forest River I actually made great money. So I haven't been here for a full year, but the work's been sort of steady. Again, it fluctuates a lot because of demand, but at my peak I was grossing $2,500 to $3,000 a week, so that was pretty good. And yeah, that wasn't too bad. But honestly, speaking from my own experience, I wouldn't recommend it. Now, what I say I regret what I went through? No, because I had to do what I had to do. I was in a tough spot. When I didn't get into RVs because I necessarily wanted to. I just knew they paid well, and at the time I needed money, so I was like, well, I guess I'll do them, and I did them. So I was in a rough spot. My whole family was actually in a rough spot, so I was like, well, I'm not gonna wait around and figure things out. I'm gonna just get a job like this and get more money. So that's what I did. And yeah, Keystone, they treat you like crap. And this is my personal experience. In fact, the plant that I worked at is right over here, and it got shut down. And my honest review on that is, I think they ran the whole place like crap. The people like crap. The units were crap. So everything was just about getting the numbers out. And that probably looked good at the short time, so I'm sure management then was like, oh, if the numbers look good, we look good, and we get our bonuses. That's but that's just my speculation on that. But on my end, working through RVs or working in the factory, it was all about the number, and the quality wasn't that great, to be honest, because they let a lot of things fly, from what I heard. So I'm not taking it from my first point of view, but yeah, and that was that. So I think, and after a few years, that's when it went down. But yeah, I was there for like, I don't know, 6 months maybe tops, and it was just horrible. It was right over here, actually, right past that building. Plant, I forgot what it was was just horrible. So I wouldn't recommend that. I wouldn't really recommend RVs in general because, like I said, it's going down. And what my personal opinion, and I mean, with the experience you can get, you know, I mean, right away, we'll say the biggest thing about it, which is obviously the biggest break right away you see is the money. I mean, you immediately could be making grossing $1,200 at the right place. I mean, I've heard places that make like $3K when they, you know, like my place, but other places that were making more of that money, even more, you know, right away. So it's like, once you're on rate, you're making insane money. So imagine, you know, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds that are just getting out of high school, and then their, you know, their dad, their uncles, their cousins, whatever, are in RVs, and they're like, hey, you come in this, you show that you can work, and they want to have you here. They'll put you on rate on the second week, and now you're making, you know, almost a projected 80-90K salary, like right off the bat. That's crazy. So I can see why the appeal is there, but overall, long term, you know, just like I think with anything, I feel like your experience should grow to what you should amount. So, you know, I feel over time you should be making more, but that's not the case in RVs unless you move up. But of course, that's all by strategic chance, and, you know, all that, a bunch of different combinations of things. But of course, your experience doesn't necessarily tie in. It might get you a job, obviously, but it won't necessarily get you a higher pay. So you can't negotiate that, because any kind of RV is going to be like, well, any place you go to in RV is going to be like, well, this is what we're getting paid. Everybody's getting paid the same. So there's that. Let me get gas and I'll be back real quick. All right, guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. I was talking about pay, I was talking about lines. Yeah. So, and then I went to Forest River, and my experience, and again, I should preface everything, or I should say this before I started the video, that my experience is very anecdotal, because, I mean, when I say RVs, or when I say a job of working in RVs, I mean, we're talking about a whole broad amount of work. I mean, we're doing the whole, you know, you got to think about the whole RV is being made in the whole plant. So it's like you got every department, like plumbing, metal, pre-final, final, PDI, cabinet, floors. So, you know, like every single place has easy jobs too. So it's, you know, there are places that have easy jobs. Every single place has an easy job. And all of my places that I worked at, there were people that I saw that just were walking around. Now, does that mean that they weren't good at their job or were being lazy? No, it just means that they could walk around, because in Alliance and Keystone, I was running the entire time, like running. But so it just depends on what your job you get, if you get lucky. But of course, that is a problem for overhead, because realistically speaking, it should be the case where every single job should be equal, because the pay is equal. So equal pay, equal work, right? That's theoretically it should be like that, but it's not always the case. So unfortunately, some people will get a lot of work, and then some won't. Especially if the team leader doesn't know how to do, the team leader doesn't know the jobs that well, then you get someone that's gonna be delegating these things and not knowing exactly how much work. Especially with each unit can vary from work to work for each person. So some units will be harder for some people, and then some other will be easier. So in my experience with good team leaders, it'll be the case where they'll be like, okay, the guys that get it easier during this time, help these guys out by doing this, so they would know exactly what to do, and they'll get that work, right? So yeah, and then I got to Forest River, and that plant that I was in, because I can speak for, you know, they have a million plants. So the plant that I was in, the job that I've been doing, ceiling trimming, that has been pretty good. It's been pretty easy. Management's pretty good. They were patient with me because I didn't know how to trim that well. So that was good on their side for allowing me to learn, as well as my team leader. So yeah, that was my experience with that. Again, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it just for a pay scale and being able to negotiate a better way in terms of finances, because, you know, if you're been in it for 5 years, I feel like you should be able to say, hey, I don't want, you know, I feel like I should be getting paid more, right? But that's not the case in RVs, because you go to any plant, it's just what they're paying at the time, and that changes, you know, in a moment's notice, really. So, but it is great if you need money right away, because if you are willing to work and you want a job and they give you a job, you can be making potentially, you know, $2,000, gross $2,000, netting $1,800, $1,700 right off the bat. But you know, 2 weeks, less than a month. So yeah. So yeah, guys, there's that. But yeah, guys, that's basically it from my point of view. I'm sure people have better, worse experiences in RVs. So yeah. Hope you guys have a good day. See you guys next time.